And I'm back with more Phoenix Wright, Spirit of Justice. And I'm in a trial against Phoenix Wright as Apollo Justice because they found the Founder's Orb, but they are going to claim that it's the Crystal of Ami Faye instead. So let's see what happens. Also, do note, I am going to get a cold at some point. I felt it as soon as I woke up. My hope is that I get these videos done while my voice is lucid, because it's gonna get shitty eventually, and it's probably gonna make doing videos like this hard. So, hasn't affected my voice yet, but we'll see. Just so you know, I'm not gonna take sides. Message received. Loud and clear. Good. Because I don't like this one bit. You and Daddy should be on the same team. Sorry. Man, she's really mad. I'm sorry too, little lady. This is all my fault. I'm just worried things will never be the same between Daddy and Apollo if they go through with this. Is that all? Oh, I wouldn't worry about that. That's the way it is with us men. We may fight, but we don't burn bridges. Really? Sure. 1 minute we're trading blows, and the next we're having drinks. We're simple creatures at best. I sure hope you're right. Sorry I'm late. Tina, there you are. What happened? Oh, about that. I ended up going to the wrong airport. I was waiting there thinking his flight was really late, and before I knew it, I dozed off. By the time I woke up, it was already dark. I figured something like that had happened. Being late and dozing off are two things you do best. Guilty as charged. I take it you have no idea what today's case is about? Not a clue, sorry. What is today's case about, if I might ask? Another locked room mystery? Suspect with a flimsy alibi? Or a dying message? Strike 3. It's a civil case. A civil case? You act like I'm speaking Swahili here. It's just, the Right Anything Agency specializes in criminal law, so I thought. In civil cases, there's no prosecutors, right? Instead, both parties retain an attorney. That's right. And the other attorney's someone you know very well. Who? The trial will begin shortly. Please proceed to the courtroom at once. Okay. Let's do this. Wait, who's the other attorney? Where's Mr. Wright? No time to explain. Let's go. Okay. Right behind you. Oh. Because, yeah, I woke up today and I felt, like, congested, and it was, like, that initial stage of cold where you know that it's in your throat and you're just fucked. So I took whatever leftover cold medicine I had, so hopefully I'll make it through today. But if I feel sniffly, I can already tell it's affecting me a bit. Well, now you know. Court is now in session. Is this some sort of practice session? A mock trial? No, it's not. It's the real deal, Your Honor. So you two have had a falling out? I won't have you using my courtroom for that, you know. There's nothing like that. Exactly. It just so happens that we have different clients in this case. I see. Well, here's to hoping that has no adverse effect on your working relationship. You could say that again. I had no idea we'd be going up against a boss. You sure this is a good idea? What? Do you want to switch sides? Honestly, I'd rather be anywhere but here right now. Well, at least she is here. We're really gonna need her help. Mr. Justice. Yes? Don't expect me to pull any punches just because you're the opposing lawyer. As I said, the kid gloves are off. And come what may, they'll stay off. Same here, Mr. Wright. If it's a fight you want, it's a fight you'll get. Jeez, you guys are really chomping at the bit, aren't you? I don't mind a good fight between co-workers, but keep this civil case civil. Now then, if the plaintiff would take the stand, we may begin. Good God. Noble judge, members of the gallery, good day to you. I am Paul Atterson. This is but a start of my epic campaign, and you all have the honor of witnessing it. I believe in the youth of this country, or the youth are our very future. Too long have they been looked down on, and given the cold shoulder. So to them I say, ask not what you could do for your country, ask what you could do for... Mr. Atterson, what is that crazy contraption you're riding in? It's my custom-made, election-winning campaign mobile. Beautiful, isn't it? You're on a witness stand, not a campaign podium. So come out of there this instant. Even as a nameplate. Now then, would the plaintiff's attorney, Mr. Wright, please explain the complaint filed on the defendant, or against the defendant? Mr. Addison's complaint against the defendant is simple. The defendant, one Dirk Sodmati, stole my client's family heirloom, the crystal of Ami Faye. Mr. Addison merely seeks its return. This wouldn't have happened if that archaeologist hadn't kicked the bucket. I see. Well, Mr. Justice, let's have your opening statement, if you would. The defense asserts the item in question is the Founder's Orb, a sacred relic in Kurai. Go on. It seems someone asked an archaeologist, Dr. Archie Buff, to study the orb. Dr. Buff determined it was a Kurainese national treasure known as the Founder's Orb. The very orb that was stolen from a treasure room in Kurain several weeks ago. Why, yes, I saw a news report about that. The theft of a Kurainese national treasure caused quite an uproar. Well, we believe that it was not, in fact, a theft in the traditional sense, but rather that it was spirited out of Kurain by someone for Dr. Buff to study. You don't say. And? Around that time, an acquaintance of the defendant learned of Dr. Buff. He made contact with the doctor, who agreed to hand over the orb. Apparently, the doctor wanted nothing to do with it once he learned it had been stolen. It seems you even have a transfer agreement. Mr. Sadmati also agreed to return the Founder's Orb to the Kingdom of Kurai, once the doctor verified it was the real thing. I see, so this dispute centers on whether the item in question is the Founder's Orb or the Crystal of Ami Faye. That, in turn, will determine the object's rightful owner. Better bring my A-game. Going against Mr. Wright won't be a walk in the park. Come to think of it, the name Dirk Sodmati sounds awfully familiar. But I can't recall where I've heard it. Oh, it's probably your imagination. He's a tourist. My imagination, you say? Are you sure about this? He's a wanted criminal in Kurain, isn't he? In Kurain, yes. Here, he's just a tourist. Very well, let's begin the proceeding. Bailiff, would you bring in the first witness? Duh. Never gets old. Emma? Show some manners. We're in court. Stop looking at my legs. I know they're pretty, but stop it. I know, it's just... This is a civil trial, so I was surprised to see a detective take the stand. And for them to do the slow panning shot again, because we already did this, didn't we? I had her do some digging on Dr. Buff. What for? You disappoint me, Apollo. First, you know I'm not just a detective. I'm a forensic scientist. Do try to remember that. Second, you owe Mr. Wright an apology. After all he's done for you, you have some nerve. First, I'm sorry, and second, I'm just trying to do my job. You'll never get anywhere with that kind of attitude. Take some advice from someone who's been there. Why do I feel like I'm on trial here? Detective Sky, your testimony, if you please. Press this. Okay, cool. The police have had their eyes on Dr. Buff for some time, and just today, a number of stolen artifacts were discovered in his study. Among them was a priceless urn and a statue that was stolen from the Fae clan. It seems the doctor would do anything to study artifacts, including steal them. As for the relic at the center of the dispute, he likely stole it from the Addison residence. The doctor is a thief? Why am I just hearing about this now? Well, cat burglar isn't something he'd put on his resume. He was more careful than that. But the fact is, he was a classic treasure hunter. Treasure hunter, huh? Like people who have thrilling adventures in exotic places, risking life and limb for glory? I doubt Dr. Buff was the star of his own hit movie series, Athena. Out of respect for the dead, I will say that Dr. Buff wasn't doing it to get rich. Apparently, he only wanted to borrow the artifacts to study them. He would then return them as soon as his research was finished. According to the doctor's child, he would even repair or restore some of the artifacts but be stole for returning them. He believed he was honoring the dead by discovering their history through artifacts. But whatever lofty ideals he held, it makes no difference. Larceny is larceny. Yes, he certainly sounds no different than a regular thief to me. Call me treasure hunter or I'll rip your lungs out. God, that's still... Like, for a SNES game and a Nintendo game, to say, rip your lungs out. Locke is nasty. Anyway. Let's say for a moment that the Doctor really did moonlight in stealing artifacts. Might he not have stolen the Founder's Orb in Kurine and brought it back here himself? No. No record of him traveling overseas over the past few years. Plus, he couldn't very well leave his reclusive child at home. Then this really must be the Crystal of Omni-Fae. Yes, he stole it from the Addison residence, probably so he could study it. This is the left hook I didn't need. Bet you never saw that coming. When Mr. Wright said the kid gloves were off, he wasn't kidding. Mr. Justice, you may proceed with your cross-examination. Okay, press the fifth statement. Okay. I'm kind of shocked he isn't eating the snack ooze. Okay. Well, look at the... Yeah, there we go. Hold it! You claim he stole a family heirloom from the Addison residence? Why do I say reticence instead of residence? Residence is an easier word to say. Or at least I think. But claiming something doesn't make it true. Unfortunately, it is true. How can you be so sure? A police report was filed concerning that theft. 1 year ago, in fact. What? A whole year ago? August 25th of last year, to be exact. The report states, and I quote, "The crystal of Omni-Fae was discovered to be missing from the Addison storehouse at 10 o'clock. The storehouse lock had been picked. Signed, Paul Addison Wimperson." A year-old report certainly leads to the plaintiff's claim credence. The doctor really could have stolen the crystal. Not only that, Your Honor, But the Founder's Orb was only found to be missing several weeks ago. That's nearly a year after the crystal's theft was reported. Therefore, I believe we must consider the orb and the crystal to be two separate items. Yeah. Paul Addish and Wimperson? Not the most awe-inspiring tail end, is it? I see why he cut it. Not that he inspires confidence without it. I'd probably do the same in his shoes. Yeah, what a shitty name he's got. Present email and fifth statement. Alright, present fifth statement. Police report was filed about the crystal theft a year ago. But the theft of the Founder's Orb was only reported a few weeks ago. So the crystal's police report was filed way before the orb went missing. That suggests the stolen relic is the crystal. Thanks for reminding me. Doubt the police report's a fake. After all, Emma's the one who submitted it as evidence. Still, I feel like something we learned in the police report's important somehow. Okay, so this next one is an email. Alright, present email at fifth statement.
Objection!
The doctor stole a relic from a plaintiff? Are you sure? Because that statement doesn't agree with a certain piece of evidence. What do you mean? Take a look at this. What about it? This contains an email from the doctor's computer. Email? Is that little piece of plastic? I'm afraid I don't understand. I'm old. This stick here can store all sorts of computer data. I still don't get it. Just look at this. Apparently, the doctor was reporting his research findings to a certain individual. Now take a look at this. It's the police report Detective Sky presented to the court. You can see the plaintiff's legal name on it. Paul Addison Wimperson. I can see why he dropped the Wimperson part, but that's hardly breaking news. Look closer, Your Honor. Ah! His initials! Right. The plaintiff's full legal name is blah 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 blah. Now consider this. Email's recipient address starts with its 3 letters. Paw Patrol! Ah! Don't tell me. I will anyway. The individual who hired the doctor to study the disputed item is none other than blah 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 himself. Wait, that means... Exactly. He wouldn't have asked the man who stole his family heirloom to study it. Therefore, how could this possibly be the Crystal of Ami Faye? Ah! I keep forgetting she carries a handbag. I never checked the doctor's emails. Couldn't even figure out the password to his computer. The plaintiff willingly left the orb in the doctor's care so he could study it, at the behest of his benefactor. Wait. Then what about the police report? I have all the details of the theft right here. Probably for another relic. The real Crystal of Ami Faye. He's just using the report as a way to claim that our orb is actually the stolen crystal.
Objection!
And how are you so certain that Paul refers to my client's initials? Maybe the email's recipient was a dog lover. Perhaps. So let's get to know your client a little better, shall we? Mr. Paul Addison Wimperson. I suppose shutting down detractors is all part of a politician's job. Answer me this. I don't want to say his name. What is your birthday? Really? What is your birthday? What is your birthday? My birthday? It's July 11th. But what is that to you? Oh, I see. You can address birthday gifts to my office. But full disclosure, I only accept gifts valued at $1,000 or more. Why has everyone gone silent? How can anyone be that self-centered? Alright. Politician. Did everyone hear that? He said July 11th. 7-11 matches the numbers of his email address. Both the name and birthday are a match. I hardly think that's a coincidence. Wait. Why, you sneaky little... Looks like someone finally decided to join the conversation. Would the plaintiff care to explain? I would like to say, this is quite what? Quite a thing you said. Any other thoughts? No further comments. I stand by my previous statement. Hold it! You can't just walk away. Even politicians have to explain themselves in a court of law. I'm afraid I simply don't know how it happened. I can't possibly explain matters outside my purview. Perhaps it was a mistake on the part of my secretary. Oh, no you don't, you slippery eel. Mr. Wright, would you care to respond? I won't argue your assertion. My client led the treasure in question to the doctor and asked him to study it. It seems that much is a fact. Now we're getting somewhere. However, it has no bearing on the issue of ownership. How so? Mr. Addison, I fully understand your position here. You had to hide the fact that you sent the crystal out to be studied. Your family would have been very upset if it had been found out. It isn't a family heirloom after all. You gotta be kidding me! Mr. Wright is, well, right of course. But then he always is. That's why he's my lawyer. The crystal was a precious Addison family heirloom and has been for centuries. But Dr. Buff was so eager to study its proud heritage, I just couldn't say no. I didn't even tell my grandfather. Objection! But in order to win the backing of your so-called benefactor, you were going to give what you claimed to the crystal of Omifay to that person? You were going to give a precious family heirloom away just like that? I was going to explain everything to my grandfather later. Honest. My client's grandfather is very proud of his grandson for following in his footsteps, and refusing him would have meant dashing the dreams of his darling grandson. I doubt the kindly old man could have said no. Well, grandchildren are meant to be spoiled. That's what grandfathers are for. Your Honor, please. I mean, it's been in my family for centuries. My grandfather thinks highly of my talents as a politician. That's why he entrusted me with his very important name placard today. It is an interesting placard. It looks like a Toblerone. Except for that part. So I'm sure he would have been okay with me using the crystal as I see fit. Grandpa spoiled little brat. I think the judge is buying it. No surprise there, he's always going on about his own grandchildren after all. Excuse me, can I leave now? I believe my work here is done. By all means, Detective Sky. Thank you for your assistance. You're welcome. It's nice to testify in a civil trial once in a while. See you around. Yay! Oh wait, boo! I wanted more. Oh well. Damn it. It seems the fact has changed somewhat. Mr. Atterton Wimperson apparently lent his family heirloom to Dr. Buff. Mr. Justice, how would the defense like to proceed? Alright, now what? Apollo, let's hear what they know about this so-called Crystal of Ami Faye. Maybe we can find some inconsistencies in their statements. Right. Okay then, Mr. Wright. If the item in question is really an Addison family heirloom, then let's hear all your client knows about it. Of course. Mr. Addison Wimperson, please tell the defense everything you know about the crystal's origin. All right. Now then, listen and learn. This is the tale of the Crystal of Ami Faye, and the illustrious history of the Addison clan. Are you ready? Our story begins back at... Oh, God. This guy, So the plan is to get... The plan is to get to the next cross-examination, I think. My ancestor was praised as a benevolent ruler. He protected the spirit mediums, a minority back then, from the rest of the locals. Some discriminated against them, you see, while others tried to abuse their power. As thanks, Ami Faye gave the crystal she had specifically as a gift for him. I am a descendant of that great lord. As such, my political power and influence is backed by centuries of history. Well, that devolved into a great load of self-aggrandizing propaganda fast. As you can see, the Crystal of Ami Faye is an heirloom of the esteemed House of Addison. And you have proof that it's always been in the Addison family? I have someone who gave a statement to that effect. My client's neighbor, one Eva Shineto, 85, gave the following statement. The Addison showed me the crystal back when I was but a lad.
Objection!
Can we really trust the memory of an old man? Mr. Justice, would you care to explain that statement to the judge? Oh. I didn't. What I'm trying to say is... Never underestimate the memory of your elders. I may forget my verdicts the next day, but the memories of my past are clear as day. Therefore, I find Miss Eve Shinito's statement to be perfectly credible. Wow, did you see how Mr. Wright got the judge on his side? That's definitely a trick I want up my sleeve. You're not helping. You may cross-examine the witness, but I'm going to pound you with my gavel after the next break. Alright, present research notes at fourth statement. Okay, so research notes.
Objection!
Highlight the mark below the orb. Am I to assume this was made in Japan? That's right. The craftsmanship is unbeatable. Well, that's strange. I don't see how your so-called crystal could have been made there. What are you talking about? It's quite obvious if you take a look at this. Okay, I'm guessing this is a Kuroinese thing.
Take that!
Take a look at the distinctive design here. According to Dr. Buff, it's a Mitama motif dating back to the early days of the Kingdom of Karai. The Kingdom of Karai, and you base this on... here. This piece of evidence, Your Honor. These are the doctor's research notes on the Founder's Orb. This is a box which the orb was originally stored. It features the same pattern as the one found in the orb. They do look like the same pattern. Therefore, I assert that the disputed item must have been made in the Kingdom of Karai. No, my placard!
Objection!
The Kurain channeling technique originated in the kingdom of Kurain, an Omni-Fae is known to have traveled there to train. With that in mind, what's to say he didn't bring that pattern back? She didn't bring that pattern back with her. But since this is clearly a Kurainese design, not even you could deny the possibility that it was made there in the kingdom of Kurain. Anything's possible to some extent. That doesn't make it true. So you can't conclude the orb is from Kurain simply because of that pattern. If it were that simple, I could just as easily say it's Japanese. You know, the weirdest thing is he's got some frame of logic there. Anything can exist. That's what science is for. I have to agree with Mr. Wright. The pattern alone proves nothing. But that also means there's no basis to claim the item in dispute was made in Japan either. And at this rate, we're going nowhere fast. We're just spinning our wheels. I wonder if we have any evidence to break the stalemate. Evidence that could break the stalemate doesn't exist. There doesn't seem to be anything we can use, at least not at this point. Well, unless we could find something, this trial's not going anywhere. That's much better. What's his deal? I have a suggestion. Why don't we consider this from a different angle? I'm listening. What if the Defiant Dragons really were authorized to take possession of the relic? I'm afraid I don't know where you're going with this, Mr. Wright. Consider the orb transfer agreement, which states, I agree to hand over the Founder's Orb to the Defiant Dragons if I will come to no harm. What if, as the last part suggests, this was written under duress? That would render the agreement null and void. What are you suggesting? While you were on your little cave expedition, I was investigating Dr. Buff's accident. And there was something you overlooked. Namely, that his accident might have actually been murder. What? Murder? Ah, crap. Mr. Wright, you do realize such statements are not made very lightly. Are you suggesting the doctor was murdered by the Defiant Dragons? Yes, but follow me for this for a sec. The books that came tumbling down were from the archaeology shelf. However, among the mountain of books was a single volume on psychology. What's more, there was some blood on it. And you feel this is important because the books that came tumbling down were from the top shelf, the archaeology books. We know this because the doctor's books were meticulously organized by subject. Archaeology took up the entire shelf, so that psychology book was completely out of place. Come to think of it, the shelves were arranged quite carefully. It's also worth noting that psychology books only take up a tiny part of the bottom shelf. You might wonder why a book on psychology was found amid a pile of archaeology books. But I believe I can explain what that single out-of-place book was doing there. The doctor was struck from behind while selecting a psychology book from the shelf. And that's when the blood got on the book? Precisely. And to make it look like an accident, he was buried under a mountain of archaeology books. Wait a second. This is all just speculation, right? Or do you have proof it was murder? Of course I do. You do? On a hunch, I had Detective Sky examine that doctor's head wound. She found that he'd been struck by the corner of some object. Wait, what? A wound like that couldn't have resulted from a fall to the floor. Do you understand what this means, Mr. Justice? The wound makes it crystal clear that Dr. Buff was murdered. Ah! Well, that was unexpected. Who'd have thought we'd break out of the stalemate like this? He pulled the ladder right out from under us. Still, if he thinks that's enough to make me back down, he's got another thing coming. Even if the cause of death was murder, what makes you think it was the Defiant Dragon? You should know better than to hurl baseless accusations.
Objection!
Did you forget who you were up against? Huh? You didn't actually think I'd come to court without witnesses and evidence, did you? What are you talking about? I would like to request further testimony from the plaintiff. Specifically, I'd like the court to hear what he saw. Hear how he saw one of the rebels leaving the crime scene. He saw what? If he can prove it was murder, that's the end of our client's right to the orb. Did he have this up his sleeve the entire time? How could Mr. Wright do this to us? He was just waiting to spring this trap. This trial has taken another unexpected turn. But I must mention, Mr. Wright, that you have yet to identify the murder weapon. The object used to commit the murder was not located at the scene of the crime. The murderer likely disposed of it elsewhere. Well, I never thought we'd be deliberating the issue of murder at a civil trial. All right, Mr. Blah Blah Blah, your testimony, if you please. Prepare to be dazzled. Dazzled by charismatic oration forged with a crucible of campaign battles. That evening, I was walking alone, lost in thought. I passed by the doctor's house, and that's when I saw Mr. Airball. He was running out the front door. It was around 10 at night. Surely that must have been him fleeing the scene of the crime. A vote for me is a vote to end such violence. That is my promise to you. So the plaintiff saw a possible suspect fleeing from the doctor's residence, and it's within the window of the estimated time of death. That's Airball. What in the world were you doing there? It seems Mr. Airball was loitering around Korean Village that day. There's evidence he was in the doctor's study as well. Isn't that right, Mr. Justice? You mean the suitcase? Exactly. He must have been in quite the rush to leave that behind. Oh, and by the way, Your Honor, Mr. Airball just happens to be sitting in the gallery today. Ah! That's him trying to escape as we speak. Bailiff, don't let that man get away! Right, you backstabber! What are you doing this to me? All right, the counsel/defense may question the plaintiff/witness once more. Please proceed, Mr. Justice. Hurrah! We've made it to a stopping point. Cool. Alright. So, first episode went okay. I have a particular stopping point in mind for the second part of this case, and we'll get to that tomorrow. See you next time.